Jordan Ilagan, Bachelor's of Science in Biology with an emphasis in physiology. It took me about 5 years to reach that point, and in that time I spent hundreds of hours in lectures, labs, studying pages upon pages of notes. And funnily enough, the most important and life-changing lessons didn't come from any microscope or a PowerPoint slide, but by becoming immersed in the community. I went on an exposure trip to the Philippines in the summer of 2014, and in those 3 weeks, me, along with the rest of my delegation, met political prisoners, saw the destruction of Typhoon Haiyan, and immersed ourselves in the everyday struggles of the Filipino people. It was in those 3 weeks that I realized what it meant to serve and to be among God's people. And this trip wouldn't have been possible had it not been for all those that helped raise funds for me in order to attend. To serve means to be one with the suffering and the struggles of the masses. To learn their stories and to be one with their communities. To serve means to go beyond the comforts of church walls and be amongst the people. Because how can we truly love our neighbors without experiencing their struggles firsthand? 5 years of studying biology can lead to learning about a vast range of words: homeostasis, temporomandibular joints, we're here, the atrial natriuretic peptide, ANP, to name a few. And out of all those terms, out of all those words that I came across from every single lesson that I learned, there's one that always stood out to me. It's my personal favorite, if you will. Salupongan. I first came across Salupongan a couple years ago when learning about the Lumad, or indigenous people of the Philippines. The word comes from the Manobo language, with Salu translating to cooperation and Pongan meaning unity. It's through this spirit, the spirit of Salupongan, that the Lumad were able to build schools and strengthen their communities. To know of Christ's love is to be in Salupongan. To quote the classic John Wesley quote, do all the good you can, by all the means you can, in all the ways you can, in all the places you can, at all the times you can, to all of the people you can, as long as you ever can. To dedicate oneself to serving the people, just as Jesus Christ did before us. As Christians, we should be learning our best lessons outside of the church, by immersing ourselves in the struggles of God's people. That through learning their stories, we can truly become one with the Holy Spirit, for that's what it means to live a Christ-filled life. Which brings us back to Salupongan and the lessons of the Luma. As many of you know, this past couple weeks ago now was General Conference for the United Methodist Church, a gathering that would very well shape the future of our church as we move forward. During General Conference, a good friend of mine, Reverend Levy Batista, presented this video on the Luma people in Mindanao.
The Lumads are peaceful and proud. Their name literally translates to the indigenous people. Their whole way of life is tied to their ancestral land. But they have been forced from their homes and into this evacuation center for their safety.
In the dialect of the Manobo, we call it bubungan. It means all aspects of our life is within the ancestral lands. Land is our life. The political life, the economic life, and the cultural life is all there. That's why it's important.
Big corporations attempt to displace these Lumads for economic gains, for economic interests. That makes it more complicated, an issue to tackle.
The Lumads say the government is targeting them because of their strong resistance against forceful possession of their lands, especially aggressive commercial exploitation by multinational mining corporations with an eye on profit.
It is sacred because this environment is where our lives started and where we lost everything.
I want the church to speak for that, to say no, abolish militarization.
Military and paramilitary forces are driving the Lumad people from land they farmed for centuries, forcing them into evacuation centers like this one in Davao City. 700 people are contained here on just 3 hilly acres.
We have a newborn baby. So almost 32 individual newborn baby here in the evacuation center.
people here are being forced to be here. Many people being displaced from their communities.
The sequestered compound will never be home to the Lumads, who articulate a distinct difference between their indigenous community and the evacuation center.
We have a sustainable farm in our community. What happened is we can come back in our community. It's so sad to say that.
Here they have a patch of dirt barely large enough to prepare daily rations. They long for their homeland, where fences are few and soil is life. Community leaders have been extrajudicially executed and refugee encampments attacked. And the schools where they learn their indigenous traditions are shuttered in favor of mainstream curriculum that doesn't honor their way of life.
It was really painful to see that the children who want to learn more about their places, even about their countries, they are being denied that education.
Ninth grader Lando Dallin walked 5 hours for his voice to be heard.
Simple lang kami mga...
As Lumads, our demands are very simple. Stop the attacks on our school, and stop the attacks on our teachers, and stop the killing of the Lumads.
The children sing about the fight for survival.
Our parents are angry because their land is stolen. Even though we are only children, we can fight for our rights. We are exploited and miserably treated.
I wish that someday we can go back to our community in Wakraman.
How does a Lumad fight a big corporation? That's precisely the basic question everyone asks.
It's high time for us, as a church, to hear their voice and to help them bring this struggle to the global or to the world, so that we can respond intentionally to their cry.
It's a city, but we live unhappily because we are far away with our parents.
As we celebrate the milestones of those moving on to new chapters in their lives, we must never forget the stories and lessons that we have yet to learn. That even with all the diplomas, all the college degrees in the world, that learning never truly stops. And for those that feel compelled, I encourage you guys to open up your programs. There's an envelope inside, and to give a special offering in those envelopes for to send delegates on a mission trip to the Philippines so that they can learn about the struggles of the oppressed communities, both in the Philippines, especially with the Lumad as well. And to bring about that genuine rehabilitation, genuine recovery, and to be in that spirit of Salupongan, and to be in that spirit, and to be in the Holy Spirit. Thank you.